everybody, I'm Tom Vasel and welcome to Board Game Breakfast. It is an exciting time to talk about board games, which I think I say almost every Board Game Breakfast, but hey, we're glad you're here to talk about them with me and all the different folks who are going to be here on the show today. This episode is sponsored by Pandasaurus Games, and today they want to talk about Godspeed. This game is coming out on June 17th. That's not too far away, and we're going to actually be playing this one live later on this week. The tagline here is a space race was a lie. Rather than colonize the moon, we went and colonized another planet. But not only we, and who we is could be United States, India, Soviet Union, what have you. All these different countries are fighting over another planet, trying to colonize it by placing workers. Sometimes workers will be taken away from you, or you're needed in other spots to get these different cards to compete on different tracks. It's a really cool game. But don't take my word for it. Watch our live playthrough later this week, and you can learn more about it. That's Godspeed. Other things that are happening next week, the virtual con, the combination between a Board Game Geek and us is taking place. You can find out more about it. You can find the link from our website, dicetower.com, or boardgamegeek.com. It's at the top of both. You can go check it out, and this is a way for us to play games together. I mean, yes, literally us, but you and other people. There are already hundreds of people registered. You can go in there and you'll be able to say, I want to play this game on the iPad. I want to play this game on Tabletopia. I want to play this game on Tabletop Simulator. I want to play some sort of werewolf game on Skype or Zoom or what have you. And you'll find other players to do it. It's a great way for people to get together and play games. That's what I'm doing that week, so I hope you come and join us. Then the following week is the Summer Spectacular. That's not a con. It's just a series of videos we're going to do, some of them pre-recorded, some of them live. We're going to show off some brand new games. We're going to be talking with lots of different people in the industry, telling you about some new stuff coming out, and we're going to be doing 5 top 10 lists, our top 10 apps, top 10 convention experiences, top 10 family games, top 10 pick-up delivery games, and top 10 games from a decade ago, 2010, with the special guests on each of those shows. So I'm really excited about all of this stuff coming up, but now let's focus on this week in particular, starting with what I found on the internet. So this week, what I found on the internet, I'm going to actually be talking about it now, and you can pause this video and go read it before you get to my Tom's Think, because I'm going to be directly addressing this. But I found a blog from Anthony Faber who talking about why expansions suck. This is on the blog Two Wood for a Week. Actually, it's a podcast, Two Wood for a Week. He also posted this blog on Board Game Geek. That's where the link will take you. So there's several different points, and I'm a big fan of expansions. So when I see something that says why expansions suck, I'm like, harumph. Well, we'll talk more about it later on and why Tom and what Tom thinks. But if you get a chance, go check that out first so you can read his very well written story.
Hi, it's Stella.
And Tarrant here.
We've got here a great team versus team game. The crypto, and we've got expansion here as well, laser drive.
Laser drive expansion. So
Yes.
it's another one in the suite of team word games that has come out over the past few years, which I mean, Codenames wasn't the first, but it was really the one that exploded. The crypto's different in style, so you and your team do know the words.
Yes.
But you need to give clue. But you have the same words throughout the game, and you need to be giving clues to tell your teammate what order the words are in,
Without trying to get the other teams to know what the words are and the order.
Yeah.
Yes.
So the more similar your clues are, the more the opposing team is going to work out which ones they relate to.
Yes.
So if all of the clues for one word are very nautical, then anytime you give a nautical clue, the other team's going to know where it is in your order. So
It's really tricky at times because there are times you're like, what clue should I give? That it's, you want to be a little bit fake, but not too fake. You don't want to be too spot on, and then they'll figure out what the words is. They've got the list of items, right? What is the possible things, and the laser drive gives an extra rules that you can or can't do. That right?
Yeah, laser drive forces you to give a clue that fits a specific category as well. So I think this game is very thinky on the clue giver, which Codenames is as well, but I think this one in particular is really thinky on the clue givers.
Very.
And that can slow the game down, but it might be what you're looking for if Codenames is a bit easy.
So that's the crypto. We are on Meeple University on YouTube and the Dash Hour for how to play and pocket playthrough video. See you next time.
Starla.
I'm it.
And we are
our Family Plays Games.
And today we're going to talk to you about another one of our favorite family games,
Carcassonne by Z-Man Games.
Now this game we've had in our collection for quite a while.
Yes, it's a classic.
It's a classic. It's
Gateway
a classic tile laying game.
Mm-hmm. That's all it is. Tile
just
laying.
Just laying tiles and using your wonderful meeples. And it comes with it plays with 2 to 5 players. You've got all the colors. You got your green, which I love. Got your yellow, which
that
Nick
I
loves.
love.
You've got red, which Grant loves. You've got blue, and you also have a black meeple. So, with Carcassonne, you're building cities that are medieval cities. Sometimes you have knights.
Knights. I love the knights. I love being a knight.
Yes.
Love being a knight.
And also, you have sometimes the cities are small. Sometimes they're large. The larger the city, the more points you get.
Yeah.
And you can also be a highwayman
don't like
or take
highwaymen.
control of a road. Or, for some reason, the farmers, they lay them down like they're asleep.
And it's always hard to calculate them farmers sometimes.
Yeah, it's hard.
It's hard
but
to calculate those
the farmers work hard. I don't know why we lay them down, but that's just the game.
There you go.
But I think you'll love it on your turn. You're going to pick a tile out of the bag. You're going to figure out where to place it and try to get as many points as you can.
That's right. It's a great game for families, and it's a great gateway to bring people into the hobby because it's not hard, it's not complicated.
Not at all.
And then when you want to, get some more out of this game, it's a ton of expansions.
That's true.
Yes, yes.
And we love it. We love this game.
All right.
So that's pretty much it for it.
All right. Have a great breakfast. Have a great breakfast, and see you later.
Bye, everybody.
All right.
Alrighty, today I want to take a look at this device here called the StreamDeck. So I got this for streaming. It plugs directly into your computer. And what it does is it allows you to basically press a button and it hooks up with different streaming software. So we use a piece of software called Ecamm. And when we use this software, this allows me to press a button and do things. So for example, I can have different things saved on here. So my what's happening is saved right here. So I have this set up to be my intro. I just press it and the intro starts playing. And then I can press this button that says me, and there I am talking on camera. And I really like this. I can play sound effects through it. I can show a picture or not on the screen, and you can set all these buttons up. I even have one here that shows me how many people are watching at that point in time. I have this one here. If I press this button in particular, it will bring up the video that I'm watching right then and now, or possibly the video that's live at that point in time. And now it's playing that video, so I need to shut that down. Alrighty, and then there's all different buttons that you can put on here. And then I just have different configurations saved for various things that I'm doing. So here's one I have that I use with my church. Here's one I use for the Dice Tower Daily Chat. Here's one I use for my Corner to Corner show. And the system here, the actual physical pressing of a button is nice, but it also shows you the little icons of the different things, which helps. You can change those icons to anything you want. This is a fantastic device, highly recommended. I'm giving it a 10 out of 10, honestly. It's that good. And of course, combined with Ecamm, makes for a really nice setup that we can use stuff that's live. Alrighty, let's keep moving.
Hi, everybody.
Hello, we are Ryan and Bethany.
From Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews.
All right, today we're going to be talking about Trajan. This is the masterpiece from Stefan Feld. We've been going through our top 50 games of all times on our YouTube channel, and this has appeared on both of our lists because it's just that good.
Before we dissect this, we like to talk about things we're doing in our life to try and achieve better health. And health for us isn't just a physical thing. There's also a mental and emotional health as well. And right now, I will be transitioning back to working at the physical building. And I'm really nervous, not about going to work, but I was in a really good routine at home. And now that's changing again. And I work good in routine, and now my routine is being taken away. So if you have any suggestions about how to ease into another routine, please let me know.
All right, so let's ease into this review of Trajan. This is all kind of ran by this Mancala. So it's, we've got all these different colored pieces in these 6 different dishes. You pick up the pieces out of one of the dishes, you move them around in order, in clockwise order. Wherever you land, you take that action. There's 6 different dishes representing 6 different actions, and then on the main player board, on the main board, there's 6 actions, corresponding to that. But it's a point salad game because it's classic Stefan Feld, and all those different 6 actions give you a variety of points in a variety of ways.
One of the things that I think shines about this game, like Ryan mentioned, it's a point salad game, but sometimes with point salad games, you still have to do this in order to win, and I don't feel like that's the case with Trajan. I feel like you and the other 3 players could all do different things and still have a viable strategy for winning, and I think that's a highlight of this game.
Yeah, this is a game that we just love. We will play it again and again. We'll never get sick of it. It is just that good. All right, so if you want to hear our full thoughts, be sure to check out our YouTube channel. We are Ryan and Bethany Board Game Reviews. You can also find us on Facebook. But until then, I hope you have a happy and healthy breakfast.
Bye, guys.
Bye, everybody.
Everyone, my name's Melissa McCack, and this is Smashing Buttons and Slamming Cards. This is a segment where I talk about a video game I love and I connect it to a board game I love. And this week I'm collaborating with Jen, the board game librarian. But first, I'm going to talk about a video game, and that is Castlevania. I've only played one of the Castlevanias, and it was for the DS, and I think it was the first one called Order of Ecclesia or something like that. But it was a side-scrolling adventure in this gothic-looking... Well, actually, the whole thing was gothic, right? You're going up against, like, vampires, and there's a story unfolding. It's got that RPG adventure element to it. And you're going through dungeons and going up against bosses and everything. It had that 8-bit artwork that I really liked. And I would like to connect that to Boss Monster. So Boss Monster also has that 8-bit artwork in it, and I wanted to connect it to Castlevania because I could have connected this to a few different side-scrolling adventure games, but this sort of has a gothic flair to it, just like Castlevania does. And it even has the Draculord that you could play as. It's cool because it turns the whole concept on its head, where you're actually playing as Boss Monster, and you're creating your dungeon and these rooms that you're trying to lure heroes into and ultimately defeat them and collect their souls. Mwahaha. Anyway, that's it for this week. Thank you so much for watching. If you'd like, you could check out mine and my brother's channel called Room 51. We are also doing a live 12-hour long marathon on Twitch at Room 51 Live. We'll have contributors like Jamie Stegmeyer, Brothers Merv, Dice Tower contributors sending in videos, and they'll be playing throughout the stream. So I will catch you next time.
Hey there everyone, it's Jen, the board game librarian, flipping some pages and pushing some cubes with my segment From the Page to the Table. Welcome to the teen section of my library that I work at, and a wonderful backdrop. As always, this week I'm going to pair a book and a board game that share a common theme. This week I'm taking a look at Ernest Cline's Ready Player One. This is one that my husband and I listened to several years back on our way to Gen Con. Perfect road trip listen, read to us all by Will Wheaton. Our main character Wade is in the year 2044, and we have like a post-apocalyptic dystopian setting where he and several of his friends are trying to solve various puzzles in a very video game centric universe. A lot of really cool 8-bit references to the old arcade games and things like that. A really fun read, and one that bridges a great gap between young adult and adult. A continual popular item in our library. So I'm going to pair it with a brand new, not even published game yet, a little preview for you all, one that you maybe be excited about, and that is Overlord. It's a boss monster adventure game. Going to be coming to Kickstarter on June 16th, designed by Aaron M.G. and Kevin Russ, 2 to 4 players, ages 8 and up, 20 to 30 minutes. This is a very easy breezy gateway style tile laying game where you are trying to build up your terrain for your boss monsters. On your turn, you're going to pick a tile, put it down to make lots of combos, and put your monsters along in the way. I think it's a really great entry game for those who are huge into video games and 8-bit games. Adorable kind of 8-bit artwork as well. And I think this will be a fun one for you if you're a boss monster fan or a video game fan at all. That is all for this week. Happy breakfast!
So what's coming out from the Dice Tower this week? Well, I'm going to be reviewing the new expansion for Role Player, the Margraves of Valeria. I'm looking, they're all on the floor over there. Several smaller games, a new expansion to My Little Side, and Pan Am. So several games going to come out this week. Also, we'll continue our playing through apps live over the week. I do that Monday, Wednesday, and Friday morning. We have our board game breakfast live throughout the week. And like I said, there's going to be a live playthrough of Godspeed on Friday, so I hope you join us for that. And if you're not joining us every night at 9 p.m. for our daily chats, you should. Lots of great guests, sometimes just us, but it's a way to put aside all the cares of the world and just come in and talk and have a good time, so check those out.
OOP is an acronym, OOP actually. You might see it online. It means that a game is out of print. OOP, out of print. So whenever a publisher is printing games, maybe they'll print 5,000 copies of a game. Those games go into distribution, go to stores, go to websites to sell. Once that kind of dries up, the game is out of print unless the publisher is going to do another print run. Maybe they'll print another 10,000 games or something like that. So a game that is really out of print is usually a game that is not a publisher is not actively printing it, or it just might be a long time between print runs, so it's out of print for a period of time. OOS is another acronym. Means it's OOS, or out of stock. You might see this on like an online game store. This would be a game that's just not in stock right now, and it might be coming back in stock through distribution soon. It might also be OOP. A Grail game is a game that you really, really want, but you just can't get your hands on it. Like Indiana Jones and the Quest, and the Holy Grail, whatever that was, the Last Crusade. It was in the Last Crusade. He looked for that one, and it's just that game that you really need. It's usually OOP. It's out of print, and you need to just kind of track it down. Maybe you're on eBay, Board Game Geek. They're usually sometimes collector's editions. Sometimes they're just really hard to come by because they've been OOP for so long, or they've just been OOS just for a really long time. That's it.
Okay, so earlier on I told you to go check out that well-written article, and I wanted to talk about expansions for a bit here. So Anthony in his article talked about the different types of expansions. He talked about expansions that add more stuff. These are my favorite type of expansions. This game comes with 6 characters. This expansion adds 8 more characters. It comes with 20 event cards. Now there's 15 more event cards. I love these. Then expansions add extra players, 5th and 6th player. Now, he hates these, and you know what? There might be another exception I can think of, but I think Cosmic Encounter is the exception. Other than that, I agree. Games made to be played with 4 players tend to drag with 5. Games that go up to 5 add that 6th player. It doesn't seem like it's worth it to me. Some expansions add more mechanisms. This was something he's not a fan of. I'm kind of iffy on these. It depends on what it adds to the game. Sometimes it's fantastic, sometimes not. And then standalone expansions he mentioned, where it's like the same game again, but like a Ticket to Ride Europe or Dominion Intrigue, things like that, where you can mix the two, but it also can stand alone by itself. I think these are cool. He didn't mention patch expansions, but no publisher will ever call that a game that expansion that fixes problems in the base game. So here are his reasons for expansion sucking, I wanted to talk about them. First is a regression to the mean. Which is a great thing. I really like the idea of this, you know, and it's why you say very talented people, their kids aren't necessarily super talented also, not because the kids are bad or anything or lazy, but because these people who are fantastic and interesting, you know, their kids are just going to regress back to the average of human beings in general. And that's how that works for the most part. And so just because a game is good doesn't mean that same designer will have a brilliant expansion. Sure, you can and I can think of examples to counter that point, but I wonder if they are the exception and not the rule. And the expansions that add more stuff tend to not follow this because, again, it's just more stuff, so it doesn't need to be brilliant in its own regard. He says expansions are inherently unnecessary. I don't disagree on that. The idea that an expansion is inherently unnecessary. Let me pull up what he says here. If the content wasn't so great, why is it not in the base game? But I can find a reasoning against this per se. For example, Cities and Knights of Catan. That was actually cut out of Catan from the beginning. And then it's an expansion. You could say it was unnecessary. I agree to some point. Because Settlers of Catan, or Catan as it's called now, very, very basic game. A game anybody can get into and play. Cities and Knights changes this up considerably and makes it a much more complex game. So you can say it's unnecessary. But for some people, that's the only way they want to play it. Just as a side note, I don't like Cities and Knights that much. But I get that some people like it. It changes it to a whole new level. And an expansion that will take a fairly vanilla game that might be very good for everybody else, but adds a bunch of attacking, or adds strategy and negotiation, or just adds complexity, might make that game suddenly appeal to a different group of people. And in that case, I don't think it's inherently unnecessary. He said playtest expansions have less testing. I might disagree with him on this because how do you know? It's really easy to playtest an expansion, frankly, because the original game, you're playing with different people who've never played it before. For an expansion, I can send it to you. You can learn that expansion really quickly and jump in and just add it to the game. And there's already a much bigger play base of people who might be willing to test it. He said they're a market need, not a game need. Sure, this is for sure. Publishers definitely publish expansions to make money. And in fact, sometimes they will publish an expansion to get more interest in the base game, to sell more copies of that. But I just don't see that this is bad. This is kind of saying that that a game, you know, like, oh, these people are in it for the money. Well, yes, you know, they want to survive like every other business. Yes. There's some games that inherently need that you know, you could look at, we call them a cash grab to some degree. But at the end of the day, if that's what the people who play the game are asking for, why would a company not do it? He said they're a bad value proposition. And this one is actually very intriguing to me because I get a game with 5 modules. I'm like, you get 5 modules. Pick the ones you want to play with. This game, I like module 1 and 3. I always add those. Module 2, Module 3 is bad. Module 5 is okay, I can take it or leave it. But I paid for all 5 modules. The problem here is I don't know how to counter this. I don't know how to change this in any other way because if you sold all 5 modules separately, A, they wouldn't sell nearly as well, and B, the cost of each one would go up considerably. So I don't know that it's as bad as he says, but I get his point here. Game bloat. Well, who's going to argue with that? Battlestar Galactica, anybody? Where it just makes the game bigger. And I agree, I'm not a big fan of that part of many expansions. Printing issues. This is a company-specific thing where the cards don't match the other one. This can happen in expansions for sure. And difficult to evaluate. Just recently, I was looking at my own ratings of games on Board Game Geek. And I have a pretty solid bell curve on them. It tilts high because it's really hard to differentiate the value between a 1, 2, 3, 4 on a game. If I hate a game, but 7, 8, 9, and 10 are easy to differentiate. So it tilts a little high. I don't care about that. But I looked at my expansion ratings and they tilt way high. I think I've given out like 1 to an expansion for Time Stories. And a few other very low, but they mostly are higher. Why? Because I normally don't play expansions for games I don't already like. And he says that here too. You want to find out about an expansion? You're going through and it's going to be progressively rated higher, and I get that. But at the same time, if you're looking for an expansion, you also like the base game. So I think that you can filter that out a little bit easier. All in all, he made some fantastic points, but I still love expansions, and I don't think they suck, and I'll tell you why. Because for me, expansion is a much better value for me time-wise. An expansion is often a lot less difficult to get into the game. I play the game, I'm like, okay, we already know how to play this game. Here's a few more rules. That's way easier than getting a whole new game and learning the rules for that game. They add stuff to the game. Sometimes I'm like, we're seeing the same 10 characters. Now there's 40 characters. Every game feels different. It just adds to the variety of the game. With that, it lets you play that base game to get into it, and now there's all this extra stuff, and so every game can feel different. It doesn't have to, and an expansion can have a lot of value. There might be a big game with a board and a decks of cards, and like I said, and then 10 characters, and each person uses 2. And then this expansion doesn't have to add the board. It adds another 100 characters, and suddenly there's so many options, and I love that. I already like the base game, and I know I'll like the expansion, and it's easy for me to go to something I know I'll like than to grab a new game which I hope I like. And then it often just makes me appreciate the original game. Maybe a game that's not broken but has some dominant strategies, or someone in my game group always does the same thing. The expansion might force them to change their ways, force us to look at things in a new light. They also take up usually less room on the shelf because I can often put the expansion stuff in with the base game. There's no question that expansions have problems that are inherent with them. And this is a good article, and you should read it. But I still think, overall, if I have a choice between an expansion for a game I love or a game I don't know anything about, I'm still going to get that expansion. I just like them.
Hi folks, I'm Andy from Potable Gaming. Welcome to Change Your Venue, a segment where I talk about different board game IPs I love as board games but think would also be really fun in different mediums. And today I want to talk about Clank. Clank is a fantastic deck building experience where you and your opponent are trying to break your way through various different kinds of temples or dungeons or cave systems to gather as much loot and treasure as possible while trying to make as little noise as possible lest the dragon attack and destroy you. It is a brilliant game. I adore deck building as a mechanic, but I also find deck building with a spatial element or deck building with a real purpose, set aside a deck build, that'd be something excellent. I have pretty much all the expansions for Clank, and it's taken a lot of willpower not to just buy Clank in space just because I can. But where do I think Clank would work well? So while the art and style and components lend themselves to TV shows or video games, I've done quite a few of those. Clank, I think, could be something more interesting. I want to see Clank as some kind of weird live experience you take part in. So I used to work in a company that sold special events and for wedding parties and things, and one of the things you'd often do was inflatable courses or assault courses as a way to book in a day. I would love to see a Clank version of that. Hire out a warehouse, make it look like some giant ridiculous cave system or something of that nature. You and your friends all sign up to try and go through on a time dash to get through, gather equipment or gather the points to come back and win prizes. All the while you're going to have monsters who are going to be fighting you, which will be other people dressed up to try and attack you. You might have a dragon. The more penalties, the more things you hit to create a penalty will summon the dragon, which might disqualify you or have some kind of trap or some kind of forfeit that you have to do. And at the end of it you get thrown into a pool of water or something daft like that. I don't know. There's a lot of ways you could do this and turn this into a live action game that you and your friends could take part in. And honestly, I think that could be brilliant. I would sign up for a live day of Clank. Would you? Let me know down in the comments below what you think, or if there's any other games you'd like to see my take on. And as always, folks, I've been Andy, and it's your round.
Hey everyone! Today on 2 Minute Mini, we're turning Edith and Hugo from the Mages Guild from Wildlands from this into this in just 2 minutes. Hey everyone, Matt here from the Plastic Canvas and welcome to 2 Minute Mini, and today we are painting Edith and Hugo from Wildlands. Now the main thing that I want to talk about with these two is the different approach that I took to highlighting and shading these two minis, because even though they both have rows of some description, I didn't do their shading in the same way. For Edith here, I used washes to do her shading and then layering to build up the highlights, which is what I'm doing at the moment. But for Hugo, who comes a little bit later, both his highlights and his shades are built up with layers. So the reason I did a different approach there for the shading is because with Edith here, who I used washes for, all of the places where the shadows are going to be, all those folds in her clothes and in her robes are really close to each other. So there's lots of places for the washes to flow into, and not too many flat surfaces for the wash to just sit on and then, dry in a blotchy way, which can often happen. Whereas with Hugo here, all all of the folds that are in his clothes are further apart and more gradual, and so the washers aren't going to work as well there because there's lots of smooth flat surfaces for it to just sit on, and if the thickness isn't really consistent, it's going to dry in a blotchy way. So I built his up with layers because those folds are really gradual and far apart, and so that all of those blends needed to be really smooth. And for all of the layering that I did, the key thing there was really thinning down the paint, so lots of water being mixed in. Now the idea of thinning it down a lot is so that every layer only makes a small difference compared to the previous layer, and that gives a lot of control over how quickly the paint darkens for the shadows or how quickly it gets lighter for the highlights. And then feathering each layer out just so that it blends nice and smoothly into the layer that came before it, just to get those nice smooth transitions. So if you'd like to see the full version of this video, head over to my channel, The Plastic Canvas, and I hope you enjoy your breakfast.
And that's it for another show. But before you leave, let me tell you this. One of our Kickstarter stretch goals this year was that we were going to start a Dice Tower newsletter. And we're putting that together. It's going to be, our first issue is going to be released really soon. So if you want to sign up for that, just go to dicetowerdigest.com and sign up to be put on the email list there. Now let me explain that, because I know what it's like to be on an emailing list, and you know, what are you in for here? We are going to send this out about twice a month. Where we'll send this out, or once every 2 weeks, we'll send out an email, a Dice Tower Digest, and in this is going to be some information that you're not going to find elsewhere, just me talking to you. It will point out a few reviews. It will give you news on the different conventions. There will actually be, maybe we'll talk about a featured Kickstarter, or we'll talk about a big piece of industry news. So kind of a lot of stuff condensed down, because sometimes people say, oh, I missed when you said this, or I missed when you said that. Any important announcements about the Dice Tower will be here. I will absolutely not share these emails with any other company. This is for us. We're going to use them for two things. One, to send you this Dice Tower Digest or possibly a special announcement over the course of the year. And two, we're going to be running contests, and sometimes we'll use the email addresses that are sent in here to determine who will win contests that are given out over the course of the year. So I hope that you find this enjoyable. You'll be able to opt out at any time, but this is another way, hopefully, to streamline the communication between us. I know we put out 50 videos a week. Hopefully, this will help you focus on what you want to find out about the Dice Tower, and you can find that at dicetowerdigest.com. Also, we want to say once again, thank you to Pandasaurus. Godspeed. I reviewed this last week. Check out my review. It's a really fun game, and I'm really excited about the playthrough we'll be doing this coming Friday. Until next time, though, with thanking all my contributors, of course, I'm Tom Vasel. We'll see you later.
Thanks for watching Board Game Breakfast. Tune in each week for your daily dose of gaming goodness with Tom Vasel and all the gang. Until next time, I'm Eric Summerer, and you've been watching Board Game Breakfast, a Dice Tower production.